Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Again, Monday at 2. Thanks for showing up and welcoming. Well, we're welcoming you, so this is why we love to do it live, because I always mess up. But no, we're so happy to see you here. This is Kristen and Rebecca.
Rebecca Johnson.
And we have an exciting guest later today, so hopefully some of you are on here to check that out. But as we always start off with our Monday market moment, let's do this.
All right, we have a lot to go over, but we're going to do it in a speedy fashion because we're excited to get to our special guest and learn about flipping homes and that side of the industry. So we're going to start off with Alachua County. Alachua County has had a busy March, but as you can see, there is still an extreme deficit in listings.
Even less, it seems.
So this is for Alachua County. So active listings that are on the market still from March 1st until today, the 22nd, 109. Pending sales so far for this month, 252.
And they are pending quickly.
They're going very quickly with multiple offer situations. And then closed sales so far for the month, 157.
Same as before, where the closed sales are way ahead of the active and the pending sales are even more. So what are we doing in St. Augustine, our small little town of St. Augustine?
So if you're looking for a home in St. Augustine with us, we've got 57 active listings that are on the market as of March 1st through today, with 65 pending sales and 32 closed. So they're heading into their traditional real estate season as the weather warms up. People are starting to list the properties, but they are going 65 versus 57 versus 32.
And
so you've
eventually we'll see more closed sales. Again, we're still in the beginning, but
and then for our Tampa Bay area
look
friends,
at these numbers.
I know. Well, it sounds like a lot, but it's actually not. If you think about it, it is a metropolitan area. There are lots and lots of people living in that area. 531 active listings.
Well, the number difference between that pending sale and the active, that's the number. That's just absolutely shocking.
There's a deficit. So pending sales, you've got a little over 1,500 and 1,131 for closed sales so far for this month, which is incredible. And all three markets are experiencing multiple offers. Offers within 24 to 48 hours or a few days, depending on the property. So if you have a home that you are considering selling in any of our markets, we would be happy to meet with you. You just have to reach out to us at info@buysellrebell.com or hit us up after the show on our Facebook page.
All right. So are we going to introduce
our special guest?
Our special guest. So we have brought on Viktor Jiracek, and he is a local flipper who is actually pretty well known in this town in the flipping and real estate community. And he's going to tell us a couple of our secrets. We're going to ask him a lot of questions. So we're actually really excited to have Viktor on here. Viktor, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thanks for having me first off. But I'm a fix and flipper here in Gainesville. Primarily, I did about 20 flips last year. 30 flips this year is the goal. Mostly Alachua County, mostly Gainesville, but like I've done Newberry, Archer, like any city here, Hawthorne, I've done it.
Great. That'll be one question I ask you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So just, excited to do more deals, and it's always really cool to see the process of buying a house before, and it's kind of crummy, you fix it up, and it's suddenly nice, and, people really like it. So it's a really fun process, and happy to share what I know.
All right. So you said, obviously we're talking about Alachua County here, but you did mention a couple of other towns. Where do you find the best sales are for you? Gainesville or one of these outskirt towns?
What's really good, I've seen a lot of success in these outskirt towns, honestly. So everyone's in Gainesville, but you find a good deal elsewhere in High Springs or Alachua or Hawthorne. It doesn't matter where, basically, but there's good deals everywhere. It's all the numbers that I look at, basically.
Sure. Now, I want to ask this because I think this it's a follow-up question to that, is that when you're you find better deals over in these smaller towns, possibly because there's less people looking, less, competition in the flipping realm. Do you find that you have to do less to impress when you sell? Like in terms of putting, those extra special touches and finishes. Maybe Gainesville expects, hard stone countertops like granite, of some sort, whereas in these smaller towns, not so much.
There was a recent, so that's actually a really good point. Nobody's brought that up before. So interestingly enough, there was a house I did, and in Bronson, and that was my first flip in Bronson. And we were told, because we were going to stage the property, so we fixed it up real nice, staged the property, and I was told by the people who saw it and like the realtors and the neighbors, like there's never been a staged property in Bronson. So we were the first ones ever, from what I know, to have a staged property. So that's an interesting point. I never thought of that before. They have different standards, you know.
Well, you bring up staging, and what I was going to also say, not to take this on because I know you have some great questions also, but we have a friend in common.
Okay.
And that would be your stager, Eileen Krebs.
That's right, yeah.
And so she told me the story. It was so funny. Once you came on our talked to us about coming on here, literally everyone I talked to somehow knew you. So
Is that right?
it's kind of like when you buy a car and you have like the special color and all of a sudden you see that car everywhere. That sort of, phenomenon happened. But Eileen has always been talking about this investor who uses her for staging. And I honestly gave like the eye roll, like, yeah, whatever. And I never believed her. But then just last week, she started talking and I asked, is that Viktor? Because it was something that I had read about you about, almost 30 deals. And she said, yes, it's actually Viktor. So tell me about why you chose to stage your flips.
Yeah, no, good question. So staging helps sell the property quicker and sell it for more. So especially when you're flipping, you have some sort of maybe hard money or you have some sort of financing component. So literally every day matters and there's a price per every day. So getting the property sold and out the door ASAP is a big deal. So having it sit for a month versus sit for a couple days, if you stage it properly, makes a big difference. So it's a good return on investment there. So that's a big part of it. I also like it just makes the house pop and it makes it like a really nice house at the end of it. It really ties everything together where just having an empty house doesn't really make that same sort of impact. Even if we renovate nicely, it's not the same versus having it staged. People know how to visualize the space, which is super valuable. They know like, oh, here goes the couch, here goes the TV, bedroom, nightstands, all that stuff, and that makes a big difference. So we use it sometimes if the layout's kind of weird or if it's small, or you can use staging to overcome a lot of these obstacles. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we agree. We're big stagers. Rebecca's really great at staging our listings. And when we don't have the furniture, we do hire stagers for especially those odd houses that you really can't see yourself in. And then we do find that. So I think that's great. We're actually going to have Eileen on in a couple months. So there'll be a follow-up to this one.
Tell her I said hi.
I will. We'll talk about you.
So how did you get your start in flipping? I think everybody would like to know. How did you just wake up one day and decide, I'm going to flip a house? So how did you get your start?
Something like that. Kind of not really though. But so what happened was I was always interested in real estate and wanted to get into it. I was connected through a friend of a friend to a mentor who I learned under, but basically he was teaching wholesaling. So wholesaling is where you find a property, you put it under contract, and then you basically sell the contract is what wholesaling is. So I was doing that. I did my first 2 deals wholesale. I made $3,000 on the first one, $3,500 on the second one. And I didn't really like wholesaling because I always felt like more of a middleman. Like I would find a great deal, negotiate with the seller, then find a cash buyer. Cash buyer wants a good deal, investor wants a good deal, so they kind of beat me up as well. So I was always stuck in the middle. I didn't like that.
Sure.
So I figured, and then the cash buyers, like especially the flippers, they would turn around and flip it and make 20, 30, 40,000 net profit. So like I'm getting beat up over $1,000 here, and they're out there making much more. So I figured I need to get into the flipping myself. And then did one flip, it went well. Did another, started to build momentum, and that's pretty much the story. So started wholesaling and flipping is where I'm at now.
So you said you made $3,000 and $3,500 on your first 2 deals with wholesaling. If you don't mind asking and answering, what'd you make on your first flip deal?
About $28K net
And
profit.
what's your, that sounds about right. What is your average?
About $30K net profit. It depends.
Yeah.
Sometimes it happens where we want to make 30, 40K and then things go wrong or it doesn't sell for as much, and we're happy with 10,000 to walk away with it. But luckily never lost money on a deal. Luckily that's also helped Eileen and staging and all that stuff.
Sure.
But
probably in this market, it's really hard to not sell the house.
Well, that's also a good point. Yeah, that's also a good point. So we've just had a lot of luck there. But yeah, just 30K net on average, and it depends. It just honestly depends.
So for a first-time home flipper, what are some like your top 5, things that you could offer and tips?
I think the biggest thing is just get your first deal done. There's a lot of experience, a lot of learning that's going to happen with your first deal. And once you do it again, you're going to start to get more efficient, start to get quicker, be able to cut costs, know how to sell it for more. Sure. So there's a lot of value in just getting your first deal done. So I recommend to folks, like, even if you break even or make a couple thousand on your first deal, like, at least you're getting started, getting into it. And there's so much value in that. Like, if I didn't get that first one done, again, that one was a little bit below average because we made $28K, but we got it done and we got started and we're able to actually grow from there. But you got to get the first one done. So that's a big piece of advice.
I have a lot of questions.
So just start is
Okay.
basically,
Oh, look at that. Does each house take the same time? How long? Probably not,
Oh, good
right?
question. Yeah. It depends on the renovation. So sometimes it just needs paint and flooring. It's good to go. Sometimes it needs a full gut job and that takes longer. I think our average is about 30 days to renovate. So in and out 30 days.
You have your people.
Yes.
And have you learned to, change up the people that you have?
Yeah. So that's the other thing with flipping. Part of it, like, you can vet your people as much as possible up front, but there's still always that trial and error.
Right.
So it always happens, like, let's say you hire 4 contractors and 2 of them were good, 2 of them were not so good. So for your next flip, you're going to, hire the 2 good ones and then find 2 new ones. And then maybe that time you have 3 good contractors, and like you do your next flip and now you get it down to 4 good contractors, and then just use those people over and over as much as possible. So that's the other reason why you want to get a deal done. As much vetting or as much upfront work you can do, reading reviews and all that stuff, sometimes just contractors don't work out. So, or maybe they're too busy and they drop the ball, and so it's just one of those things where you got to find that right.
I think 30 days is pretty phenomenal because everyone's really busy right now. So getting them to finish within that 30 days, that sounds like you really found your people. Now, when did you feel like you finally got into your groove after, like, I don't know, house 3, house 5, house 10?
I would say after house 2, because the first one we did was in the Northwest. So that one sold relatively quick within a week or two. Second was a condo in Bellamy Forge, and that one took about a week to sell. And then after that, we had 2 data points where it's like, okay, there's something to this. Like, we know at least at some level what we're doing. Let's just rinse and repeat at this point. So
Nice.
I kind of picked it up pretty quickly. Luckily, but
right.
And again, we've been lucky so far. It's definitely a seller's market. So if you get a good property out there, it is going to sell. So that makes life a ton easier. And we've made mistakes before, but we held on to the property so long, like, it appreciated. So kind of erased our mistakes. So we've gotten lucky there too.
We hear you. That happens with us sometimes too.
Oh, yeah. So when you're identifying a property, are there things that you steer away from, or are you just kind of like all in? Or
Yeah,
and I
you
know
said
there's
you've
always
gutted one
unexpected
before,
things,
so.
right, that come up.
For myself, I'm pretty open. I've dealt with, like, foundation issues. I've dealt with flood zone. I've dealt with water damage, mold damage. So I've dealt with a lot of stuff. I've dealt with, like, weird layout properties as well. So currently, I'll take on pretty much anything if the numbers make sense.
So it's numbers.
It's numbers, yeah. So it's all numbers. For people getting started, which I imagine might be part of your audience, I recommend getting started on something I call a simple flip. So something like paint, flooring, kitchen, roof, and you're done. So nothing crazy like there's foundation issues, or there's fire damage, or there's structural issues. That gets tough, and Murphy's Law applies. So anything that can go wrong will go wrong. I want folks' first flip to be a home run where they make money, like, this is awesome, let's do this more. But if you get into more of that advanced stuff, and there's nothing wrong with doing that in the future, because that's what I did, but for that first go around, advanced stuff,
the easier
will
one.
kill you. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned roof, so you find that you are repairing, because I was going to ask you, do you look at, and kind of with her question, is it a house that needs just basic repair, or are you willing to take on, again, the roof, the HVAC? And it sounds like you are, and that's still deemed as a simple home. So it could be the roof or the HVAC, which are both sort of the higher prices. And then, a regut of the kitchen or a redo of the kitchen, that's a high price. So you're willing to take those on. It's just for the newbies, simpler.
I recommend
Lipstick
simpler.
on a pig.
Yes. Something like that for the people just getting started. Again, when you're getting started, there's going to be a lot of moving parts to it. Like, how do I buy it and close it? How do I renovate it? How do I sell it? So there's a lot of brand new things you're dealing with, especially as you're getting started. So just try to keep it as simple as possible.
So you talked about a little bit about how you buy it. So what can you give those either newbie or sort of have done a few flippers on how to find money for this.
So I'm a bit counterintuitive when it comes to the money. So I think that the deal comes first. So if you get a good enough deal, people will throw money at you. So if you have a great deal and a great property where there's a lot of profit potential, you will get the money for sure, especially in today's market where deals are tight, inventory's low. Right. So that's the biggest thing. I think the other thing with regards to raising money is for folks to know you're doing what you're doing. A lot of the times people have this, it's like a secret desire, like, hey, I wanted to get into flipping, or hey, I wanted to get into real estate, and nobody knows it. But if you put it out there, you'd be surprised how many connections you can make. So that's that's a big part of it.
We always say, don't be a secret agent to our newbie agents. Don't be a secret flipper.
Don't be a secret
flipper. I
like
it. I think we think a lot alike.
Yeah. The other thing with raising money, I like to teach what's called like the leapfrog method. Okay. So it's basically when you're asking for money, you don't directly ask like, hey, I want money for this flip, please. Right. You don't do that. So you do more of a question like, who do you know who could help me out? And if they're interested themselves, they'll say like, oh, I want to help you fund this flip, or I want to help you fund this deal. If they don't, they're going to point you in someone's direction. And you can ask the question to them, like, who do you know who would be interested in funding this deal for me? They might say yes, or they might put you in somebody else's direction. But you're eventually going to find someone, because you're kind of leapfrogging from person to person, and you're building your network, and eventually you'll get the money.
Right. Nice. Okay. So do you go back to a lot of the same people when you're trying to fund it, or now you're,
So yeah, once you have a good relationship with someone, just use them. I'm really relationship based. So like with the contractors as well, if they're good, use them over and over. With the people I use for the money portion of it, same thing. If they're good and we have a good relationship, then use it over and over. So that's the biggest thing that I do.
Connections, relationship.
You got a question on the screen. Did COVID affect your business, costs, timing?
Oh, good question. Yeah. So it did. No, it did. So pre-corona, if you told me that the market would have heated up because of corona, I would have called you crazy, because I thought we were like slowing down in March, April, May. We're like, this is not going to be good. We got to rethink our strategy. But it's hotter than ever with the market. So that's an interesting piece of it. Costs roughly the same. Maybe a little bit more. Contractors are busier than ever, which is
that should be
tough to deal with. But again, we sell them on a relationship, and we do like a lot of volume, so lots of work.
They'll stick around with you than that one timer.
Yeah, exactly. So cost about the same, maybe a little bit more expensive. Lumber has gone up a ton. Luckily, we already have the house built, so we don't have to put in new lumber. So that makes our life a lot easier. Timing, a similar thing with the contractors. It's harder to get good contractors out there because everyone's just so slammed and so busy. What's also interesting, there's a few components of the house that are just taking longer to get out to us. So windows, for example.
I was going to say our windows
and doors.
Because we went from being 2 to 4 weeks out from being 6 to 12 weeks. And, then it's 12 to maybe next year. No, we don't know. But we are seeing that as well. So I was curious.
We've seen that on windows, yeah. So we just don't do new windows anymore, especially since the market's so hot. We might, discount the price a little bit or clean up the windows. It just doesn't make sense. If it's a broken window, we'll fix it. Don't get me wrong.
You
but
could just fix that pane instead of the whole window.
Because again, our average rehab time is 30 days, 45 days. So we're not going to wait another 2 months to get windows. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
And then nobody buys a house for windows, if that makes sense.
Sure.
People buy it for the kitchen, bathroom, the feel of it. They don't buy it for like, oh, this house didn't have good windows, I'm not interested.
That's interesting to hear. Well, that's all great information. We do have to take our break. We take a little bit of a break and come back for more talk about flipping with Viktor.
My name is Jackie Mercier, and I represent Team Kristen and Rebecca at Rabell Realty Group. Like me, I've been a realtor for 18 years, but I was new to the area, and being on their team helped me learn the area more. The value brought to my business is just the accessibility to Kristen and Rebecca. We have morning huddles 3 days a week. We have labs. We have Zoom calls, we have conferences, we have a brain trust on Facebook, and any question we may have is answered in a very timely manner. They're just very accessible, they're very knowledgeable. We are a big family and we are friends as well as business colleagues. If you want to succeed in real estate, come join Team Kristen and Rebecca.
Hi, everyone. everyone. Welcome back to the Rabell Realty Group podcast, live Mondays at 2. We are talking with our special guest, Viktor, and I have a question for you.
Great.
You have a program that you offer to people looking to invest and get started in flips. Am I correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Perfect. Tell us a little bit about it. How do they find you? What all are you kind of teaching them? Why is it a benefit to them to join?
Yeah. So one of the things I regret, so as mentioned, I had a wholesaling mentor. Didn't really have a flipping mentor. So I learned the hard way, just like made a mistake. I'm like, okay, well, I shouldn't do that anymore. And just learned the hard way, which cost me a ton of time, cost me a ton of money. So what I do now, I mentor people. I mentor people nationwide, and I have students in California and Oregon and Maryland and Texas, any state. I have students, and I teach nationwide. I teach people how to get your first flip, how to get to 6 figures flipping houses, basically following what I do, and it works. Like how do you get the money, how do you get the deals, how do you run your numbers. Teach everything A to Z. So the best way for folks to reach me is on Facebook. I have a free Facebook group, 6-Figure House Flippers. There's a lot of great free content in there. So if folks want to connect, or if they have any questions, they can hit me up on there. But I do teach, and it's really cool to see people learn. It's really cool to help someone go from 0 to their first deal. Like for me to go from the 30th deal this year to the 31st, it's cool, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't have that same emotional impact. Like if I get someone their first deal, it's like, whoa, this is cool, this is amazing. Makes my whole week.
So in there, when you start mentoring them, do you share systems and processes? Like if you're trying to achieve a 30 to 45 day flip, you need to start booking people, because I think a lot of people get hung up on the process. Whenever I talk to people, they're like, well, I didn't know it was going to take, 3 weeks to get cabinets and 2 weeks to template granite and get it in and do those sorts of things. Like they don't know the order in which to do things.
Like you were saying earlier, sort of doing the work ahead of time, getting the contractors ready and everything.
So while you're under contract for a home, that you're lining up your flooring and you're lining up your cabinetry and all that, and kind of building out your schedule. Because I always think that's where people get hung up, is they don't realize that there is a schedule in which things need to be done.
Right.
Otherwise, you will waste a ton of time and energy.
No, spot on. So I teach how to build a scope of work, which is like, hey, what everything needs to be done on the property, and then teach the timing of everything.
Yes.
So when does certain things happen? When can you do a roof at any time, or do you do that first? Do you do that last? Do you do painting first? Do you do demo first? Like what do you do in what order is super important. So you're not like shooting yourself in your own foot or delaying yourself. So I teach that as well. It's really key to know what to do when and how to schedule it. Here's another free tip. I used to make the mistake of scheduling people like right next to each other. So I know I can tell by your reaction.
By Friday at noon that the plaster guy is going to be like, well, I'm going to go fish for the next 4 or 5 hours. It's how it is. That's just how the industry is.
Yeah.
So not to book them back to back. So
right.
Other little things that tips and tricks and stuff of the trade that you offer are available through your mentoring.
Oh, for sure. So I think the biggest thing, just like we said, is give yourself a buffer day, maybe like 1 or 2 days of painters coming in Monday through Wednesday. Let's get your flooring guy in there, let's say Friday, just to give yourself some time. Things always get delayed. That's the other, another good tip for real estate. Don't be surprised, because 2 things always happen on a flip or on a deal, anything. It's always going to take longer than you want, and it's always going to cost more than you want. So just realize when that happens, don't freak out.
Set that expectation right now. More time, more money.
More time and money.
Exactly.
The 2 things you wish you didn't have to give up.
Luckily, even at my level, or not, I guess unluckily, even at my level, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Like on a recent flip I'm doing right now, we had a permit issue. We're going back and forth to the city. We'll get it fixed, but we're delayed because of that. So It's just one of those things where it's going to happen. It is going to happen. So don't freak out when it does happen. Just realize like, hey, this is...
How can I quickly recover from this? Yeah.
So when you watch, I don't know if you ever watch this. I only watch it when I'm getting my nails done. But the HGTV shows, what is your reaction when you watch them?
We hate those as realtors.
And it could be either the really polished like Property Brother types, or the they have one. They always have it on at the salon.
The mom and daughter.
Oh yeah, them, and then the My First Flip, and it's like, I'm like, these people aren't going to kill each other. Somebody is going to end up in the driveway.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think of these shows? Because I have an opinion on real estate shows where what? I want to know.
Yeah.
I put a reality TV show. I guess there's going to be a realtor reality TV show in Tampa Bay. And I'm like, no way people are going to watch this. And I did a poll on Instagram.
Oh my gosh, they're all going to watch it.
Everybody wants to watch it. I'm like,
Interesting.
why? This isn't reality. But anyways,
what's your thoughts on these shows?
What's funny is I feel like those shows follow me around. So, people bring it up to me, and then I go to the dentist, and that's what they have playing.
Yep, that's
and then I go to the gym, and then they have that playing too. So I don't know if they know I work out there.
No,
or whatever,
it's everywhere we go also.
Yeah.
I know.
We're like,
I
why
see
are
it,
the
I'm
real
like,
estate
why are
shows
you
always
watching
on?
this?
I guess people
are
like 'em.
fascinated
Yeah, I
by
think
I
it.
think so. I
But
think
it's
that's
so
what it
far
is.
from reality where they're like, well, we found a water leak. That's reality. We're going to fix it in 24 hours. Not a reality, typically. Or they're, we're over budget and by $45,000, and they get the buyer to agree, which I'm like, well, sometimes you have to agree to that stuff. But I just always think it's interesting on what people think about it, because I get asked, there was one, the millionaire
That's why I think
real
it's
estate.
hilarious
Yes.
why you're asking him, because we're asked all the time.
Yeah, I like to know from that side of
it's
the
something
industry.
else, yeah. No, what's interesting, so there's some truth to that, some not so much truth. And here's another pro tip. Like, before we buy a house, every time we do an inspection. So not all flippers do that, not all investors do that. We do that.
Okay.
Just because we want a third party, make sure we didn't miss anything. So sometimes in the middle of those shows, they have something pop up where it's like, someone should have caught
So
that. Like,
shocking.
oh, we have asbestos sightings. Like, you guys should have known, like, day one.
Well, like you said, some don't do that inspection.
Yep.
And that's the problem.
Spend the $300 and have the inspection done.
Yep.
$300 to $500, depending on the size of the house. Is there a size of home that you don't like to flip?
Or are there other things, like maybe it's the size, or you don't want to flip something with a well or septic? Is there anything like that?
I've done the rural properties like septic well. That's less of a concern. Again, it's all numbers for me. So I don't see a house. I see how much do I buy it for, how much do I put into it, what can I sell it for. So it's all the numbers. I tend to get less excited about a deal if it's above 2,000 square foot, just because I know
Even more could come up.
more could come up. If I'm wrong on my rehab budget, it's a much bigger deal. So if I'm off by $1
It's that
square foot,
$45,000 deal. Or up.
that's right. So,
Yes.
yeah. So it's one of those. I don't like the bigger deals, especially for here in Gainesville, Alachua County. There's less it's a smaller buyer pool, which is less exciting for me. I really love the affordable housing. So our bread and butter is buy below 100,000, put in some money, and then sell for above 100,000. Those are our best deals.
Okay, so you do have sort of a parameter.
I
Roughly,
notice
yeah.
a lot of flippers target that price
Yes.
point. You don't see a lot of people.
More buyers in that price point.
There are a lot more buyers in that
Affordability.
pool. I always think about it as what needs to be done to houses. So I love it that all the old houses that are smaller are getting fixed up, but I walk into like older homes that are larger and I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing's going to cost a fortune and needs everything, but they could be more valuable. I mean, we've seen that before, but like Gainesville Country Club. I've seen homes in there that are just
Enormous.
600, 700,
I mean,
800,000
so much.
because they've been flipped, and the same one's going for 200,000-300,000 because they haven't been haven't been renovated.
Haven't been rented. That's interesting for sure. I typically do because I look at FHA limits because if it's
Yes, of course. It goes
within
3 months.
Yeah, within FHA limits, because they have a cap for the county. So for Alachua County, it's like 350,000. FHA will lend up to that limit. So about half our buyers are FHA buyers. So I want the inventory and whatever I put out there to be sold ASAP. So that's why I do these lower end properties or these more affordable houses. So that's why I do it that way. We get a ton of FHA buyers. We work with FHA. It just makes life a ton easier when it sells super quick versus doing a mansion. I've never done a mansion deal.
Yeah, I know.
And
Right.
it just sits there for a couple months and longer days.
All
in this
those are
market.
going right now.
In this market, they are going, but yeah, I probably wouldn't do them in a real bad market. Oh, found your page.
So
requested
yeah,
to
Duffy was
join.
asking,
Oh, awesome.
how do you join? And it looks like you find the page, the Facebook page you talked about, and then you can join there. So
Yeah, and then just shoot me a message on Facebook Messenger and I'll get, we'll have a conversation and see if it's a good fit and then go from there.
nice.
Very good. So tell me again, how do we find your school?
So it's on Facebook. I have the Facebook group, Six Figure House Flipper. If you search that, or if you search my name, luckily I have a very unique name, so that's
There you
good.
go.
There we go. Yeah.
Up on the screen.
Six Figure Flippers, and then just join the group. It's a free Facebook group, and yeah, just a lot of good content. If you want to be mentored by me, great. If you don't want to be mentored by me,
Just follow
totally
along
cool.
that
Yeah, there's a
page.
lot of free stuff. Hopefully, there's been some free tips in here in this interview that's been valuable for
right.
folks listening.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you could say I learned a little bit.
Oh,
I work with a lot of flippers. We both do, so we sort of knew a lot of this. But it's nice to hear in a different perspective of with a flipper rather than, hey, I found this deal, I need you to list it, or go check out, this deal with me and see that. So, gosh, there's so many other questions we have, but we're running out of time, aren't we?
We're running low on time. Maybe we can have you back for another interview sometime.
I'd be open to it, yeah.
And then we will, after the show, we will drop your link to your Facebook page so that people can get in touch with you and then, of course, ask you questions, get mentoring. The Home Place loves flippers. Oh, there you go.
Do you ever use it? Talk to them?
I haven't. No, we get a lot of our stuff Home Depot and Lowe's, believe it or not.
Okay,
so
yeah.
that's a good connection to have.
Have you talked to Floor and Decor yet also? Because they're kind of new in town with their cheaper floors.
No.
Oh,
yeah, that's off of Newberry, back kind of by TJ Maxx.
The
but
old,
it's huge.
Yeah, the old Kmart. So.
Good to know. Yeah, we just do Home Depot. That's been working out for us. But
it's right there.
You never know. I mean, if I can save 50 cents per square foot, I'm happy.
Of course. Yeah.
All about the numbers, people. That's usually how it is. Do you have to be good at math?
Luckily, no. It's addition, subtraction, multiplication,
Excel
you can
division.
have third grade math skills, and you're good.
Mm-hmm.
There
and
you
don't
go.
even have
Common
to be
sense.
good at math yourself. Just pull up a calculator and do the work for you.
There you
See,
go.
you don't have to be smart.
There's no
Math
reason
smart,
that you're not making a
Look at
six-figure
Victor.
income.
You don't have to be smart.
Common sense
I didn't say that.
and loving real estate.
A lot of common sense.
Wait, before we go, because we're about to leave, but what are some things that you think flippers, like the mindset that flippers have that know it's about the numbers and nothing else? Be willing to take on anything. What are two others?
That's part of it too. I think part of it too, I like to teach like consistency.
Okay.
Fearless. That's a good part of it.
Yeah.
Consistency. So it's like going to the gym is how I liken it. If you
Yeah,
go to the
there you
gym
go.
every day for a week.
Lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is
the lifestyle mentality.
This is what you're doing for now. This is what you're doing. So, make sure that that's the case. I know people who are like, I'm going to, find a deal this weekend. And I'm going to make 100 offers and it just doesn't happen. But if someone makes an offer a day, they're going to be much further ahead.
It's the same with the real estate. You get into it and just be that realtor. Get into flipping, be that flipper. Yep. It's not just like a side job. It's a lifestyle.
And just like you said, the fearlessness, like once you find a deal and run the numbers, like commit, hey, I'm in. This is what my research has found. Let's do it. Especially on that first one, it's a little bit scary, especially if you never sold a deal.
Right.
So just doing that and getting into it, like, hey, this is what I found. This is what I can buy it for. This is what I need to put into it. This is what I can sell it for. Let's do it. You might have concerns,
like a buyer's remorse,
something like that. Yeah. Once you get into it,
have you ever walked away, or you just commit?
Walk
halfway,
away from
like 10 days in, the inspection's just even worse than you thought. Did you quit, or did you just redo numbers?
We just redo numbers.
Okay,
so what's also good is
commitment.
if you're flipping, like with a worst case, have multiple exit strategies. So, okay, I can't flip it. Let's rent it, or hey, let's turn it into Airbnb, or hey, let's do a lease option, seller finance. So that's really helpful just to have those options.
All right, yeah, it's commitment. There you go. Well, cool. All great advice. Love to have you on here, Victor. Hopefully, we can do this again.
I'm open to it. Let's do it.
All right. What do we have up next?
All right. So
thank you to our sponsors.
If you have a property that you're planning to flip, but it didn't sell, we have a property management company, K&R Property Management, where we invest in your investment. We would be delighted to talk to you if you have a property that you were thinking of selling but decided to keep, or if you have multiple properties that you would like to have managed professionally. Ran out of air.
That was a good one. Well, we also want to thank our sponsors and also someone who can help with those remodels, repairs, and maintenance. We all need handyman, guys, don't we? So here's one for you. Johan, and his number is 352-519-8476. Might be the guy you call to help you with your flips.
If you're thinking about getting into real estate and you're not sure where to start, you can email us at join@buysellrebell.com. It's free, it's confidential, and you get to meet with us.
All right. And if you want to find us again or get social with us, find us on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, where you can watch this video.
And more. There's and
more. Yes, there's our YouTube.
Don't forget to
subscribe.
Did you know Rabell Realty Group has a blog? Well, we do. You can find it at buysellrebell.com/blog. Where we will share the great things about living in the markets we serve.
And maybe some flipping tips
from Victor. Notes from the show, and so much more.
Oh, and the Fiesta Media. We can't do this without them. Thank you so much. And if you would like to have your own podcast, Victor, contact Fiesta Media at 352-327-5089.
I think that's a good idea.
There we go.
I like that idea.
Hey, most of them who've come on here have started their own podcast.
They really have.
Uh-huh. It's a great way to
right.
keep your voice out there and learn from others and teach others. So we
Thanks
thank
so much
you,
for
Viktor,
joining.
again. Thanks for everyone for joining. Hopefully you got some great tips, and visit him so you can learn even more about flipping. We'll see
Have a
you
great
next
Monday.
week. Thank you so much.
Bye.